Star Trek, the ultimate franchise. These are the podcasts of the Wakefield brothers. Their 16-year mission to watch every production, to seek out life lessons and new inspirations, to boldly watch like most fans have watched before. Welcome to our first introductory episode of Temporal Directive. We're a brand new Star Trek fan podcast rewatching the entire Star Trek franchise in-universe chronological order. And we are going to be your hosts for the next about 17 years as we explore the Star Trek universe every single week. I'm Garry, and with me,
Thomas or Tom.
Tom, you're going to be Tom.
Oh, great, yeah.
So we thought we'd do a little episode just to talk about what we want to do, why it's important to us, and just introduce ourselves a little bit. So, yeah.
You probably want to say that we're brothers. You just don't want to tell people, that's it.
Well, you know.
It should be pretty exciting. 17 years. Go in no time, right? Should be doing pretty good. Yeah.
And I guess we've both been lifelong Trekkies, so as I'm the older brother, I guess I might start and talk about how I got into Star Trek.
That'd be good, and how you convinced me to like it when I was a little child.
I don't remember that. I don't remember doing that, but I guess you'll talk about that. But I grew up in Ulverston in Tasmania, which is a very small-minded, homophobic little town. Was. And there was a lot of hate and there was a lot of anti-gay sentiments around at the time, right around the time that I was figuring out my sexuality. This is not a podcast that talks about sexuality, but we're gonna. But
apparently we're starting with that, which is okay.
Well, it's important for why it resonated with me so much, and I think the first Star Trek I ever watched was an episode that my dad had recorded on VHS. He'd recorded a couple of episodes of his favourite shows on VHS, and there was one that had I think it had an episode of MASH and an episode of I Dream of Jeannie. Yeah. And at the end of it, there was an episode of Star Trek the original series, and it was the Menagerie. I don't know if it was part 1 or part 2. I don't remember now because I've seen the Menagerie so many times since. But it was only one part of this 2-part story that tapped into the history of Star Trek. And I was obsessed. I just watched this one episode over and over again, and there was maybe a couple of original series VHS at the video shop. Remember video shops?
Yeah, absolutely. They were the best.
They were the best. So there was only a couple at the video shop that I'd hire out every now and then, so I kind of got a little bit more of that. But I just remember being really obsessed and watching it over and over. And then the most amazing thing happened. I was watching TV one day and there was an ad for Star Trek The Next Generation about to premiere. And oh my God, was I excited. So every Friday night when the new episode of Next Gen was on, the family got together at 7:30 p.m.
Yep.
And we watched every single episode. For the first 2 years, we watched every single episode. And then it changed networks and it went to a later time. And I kind of didn't know it had moved and just thought it had stopped.
Got a little lost.
Got really lost. And but while those 2 years were on, I recorded every single episode onto video. So I rewatched those 2 years worth of episodes over and over and over and over again. And just was obsessed with it. And I think it's because Star Trek gave me something that I didn't get from anything else in my life at that point. It showed a future of acceptance, of diversity, of everyone having a place to be, and everyone's opinion, and everyone is valued for who they are and what they bring and their experiences. And even though it never explicitly talked about sexuality until much later, it still gave me that sense of hope for the future that I didn't get from the Catholic school I went to, and didn't really feel at home. Like I just never felt, I never felt connected to anything except really Star Trek. It's like I often tell people that Star Trek saved my life, and I don't. That's not an exaggeration. I really feel like without that influence and that, that guidance and those life lessons and all those things, like I don't think I would have. I would have survived my teenage years, and B, I wouldn't have become the kind of person that I am now, which, I hope represents some of those values that Star Trek taught me.
Yeah, and I think that's something to say really about Star Trek as a whole. Really, is that it really does teach you a lot of life lessons that come through the show, and I think that's a big thing, and especially in our generation growing up. I know you're a little older, obviously, but in our generation growing up, we had a lot of that kind of thing, and especially in a small town, we had that. And Star Trek was a really good place to actually show that, you need to be able to accept people and to learn that. Because even our parents at the time, they weren't exactly overly accepting themselves. They're much different now, but back then when we were kids, it was a lot harder. And the Catholic school was also hard, so I can completely understand where you're coming from there. But I remember the good times with Star Trek. Obviously, that's what we're talking about, and Star Trek was great because I'd remember the same thing, because you'd watch the Star Trek videos all the time, and that's about you actually getting me into Star Trek when I was a kid. That was definitely you, because you would be watching it all the time, and I'd want to spend a lot of time with my big brother when I was a little kid, obviously, as much as I annoyed the shit out of you.
And obviously still do if you want to spend the next 16 years recording podcasts with
exactly, me. That's exactly right. But that's what it meant to me too, like, because I knew that was an in with you when I was a little kid. So when I was a little kid, I'd want to spend time with you, so I'd watch Star Trek with you, and you'd have it on all the time. So I got into it with that, and obviously the family would watch it for those 2 years as well, and that was always a really good thing as well, and turning that volume up when the ship went to warp on the opening credits was always really good.
I think I did blow Dad's speakers a couple of times.
I think you did, yeah. I don't think he minded though. He used to enjoy it himself. It was the only time Mum had let him turn it up. But it was definitely a family thing, which was also unusual as well, because the family used to actually sit around and watch Star Trek. Like, it used to be a thing. Once a week we'd all get around and actually look forward to watching Star Trek.
It was also something that I don't think, like from that family perspective, I don't think there was many things that all of us actually enjoyed together.
No, there wasn't.
So yeah, it was kind of that one thing that we all sort of actually got something out of and enjoyed together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was different levels on it that for some reason that we all enjoyed, which was really good, that we could sit around, even Mum, which she wouldn't watch much with us at all.
No.
Because she doesn't have the same humour, doesn't have any of that. But she would watch Star Trek without any issue, and it was really good. And I remember, like, Star Trek for me, the biggest memory I have is more Voyager. For getting excited about Voyager coming on and seeing Janeway in the trailers and things like that, and that was a big thing for me. So that first early Voyager episodes were my Trek in a way. But there's nothing like Next Gen that sits in that spot, if that makes sense.
No. Star Trek is the Next Gen is the I don't know. For me, it's obviously the one I grew up with, so I'm biased, but. It's the peak, I think, of Star Trek storytelling. I think there's something about the performances of that cast and Patrick Stewart in particular,
absolutely,
that just resonates. I don't know. I don't even know how to put it into words. But
I know. I absolutely agree with you. The cast working together was just perfect. Once you got rid of Denise Crosby, everything was fantastic.
That was a hot take from the Wakefield brothers there. I know. Yeah, Denise Crosby does have her fans. I'll say that up front.
Yeah,
we are not them.
Yeah, I don't know who they are, and good for them. But yeah,
Look, Denise is not the only one that we've had some issues with over the years.
Absolutely.
But, you know,
I don't
we're
know
probably
personally.
getting
She's probably great.
She's probably lovely.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we're probably getting a bit ahead of ourselves.
We're many episodes ahead.
Many years
let's talk
away.
In a couple of years about that, shall we? Yeah.
So the idea of doing this podcast came from obviously a mutual love and respect for the franchise and wanting to hang out and do something creative together. We wanted to do something around Star Trek, and I've had some podcast experience, so we thought we might do this in the universe chronological order watch through of the entire franchise. So we are talking about a 16 to 17 year project. We are going to be rewatching one episode per week until we get through the whole lot. And there's some rules and guidelines around how that works. So the majority of our structure of the order of episodes we got from another website that we found, which is an amazing website, and you should go and check it out. And it's StarTrekChronology.blogspot.com.
Incorrect.
Sorry to interrupt. Just wanted to say that the website is actually the Star Trek Chronology Project.blogspot.com. I did make a mistake in the original recording, so just fixing that up now. I do recommend you go check it out. It is an amazing project. A lot of effort and detail went into the creation of the chronology, and we really appreciate the work that they've done. So go check them out. So that's what we're going to go on. We're going to go on that list, and it's just over 800 episodes of us talking about Star Trek. So it'll take us about 16 to 17 years to get that through.
Yeah.
The thing that comes up the most are things like time travel. How do you work in time travel? Because the majority of, say, First Contact takes place, not long from now.
Well, that's it. So we should be watching that first, right?
No. So the idea is that the time travel episodes and movies, the time travel stories, we watch them where the point of origin of that story is. So for most cases, that's in the production order of the series.
Okay.
Yeah, so when Kirk saves the whales and goes back to the 1980s, we're not watching that first because it was the 1980s. We're watching that in between Star Trek 3 and Star Trek 5 in the production order.
Okay.
Because they leave the 23rd century and go back to the 23rd century. So wherever the point of origin is.
Okay, righto.
But that does mean some episodes move.
Mm-hmm.
So there's an episode of Voyager that, you said Voyager is your show. So there's an episode of Voyager called Living Witness that takes place a few hundred years in the future where the Voyager's gone and the Doctor's program gets reactivated.
Yeah.
But that gets reactivated years and years into the future. Hundreds of years. So that episode now will go right near the end of the whole franchise run and go into just before Discovery Season 3.
Yeah, okay.
So, because they haven't experienced the burn that happens in Discovery.
Yeah.
It'll move right to near the end, but just before Discovery Season 3 picks up.
Okay.
Just to specify, we're watching the 8 live-action series and plus the short tracks. We will watch the animated series. We will watch Lower Decks, Prodigy. There's 13 feature films. Yeah, there's a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a huge amount. So I don't actually think, as big as a Trek fan as I am, I don't actually think I've watched the original animated series.
Oh my god!
Yeah, I've watched a few scattered episodes of the animated series, but I've never actually sat down and watched every episode of the animated series.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so that'll be good.
Yeah,
I don't mind it. What I've seen of it, I actually really enjoyed, but I don't think I've actually had access to it, to be honest. Other than illegally.
Well, I do have the DVDs and the Blu-rays, so
yeah.
You
probably
could have had access had you tried.
Yeah. Well, that's probably true.
And I guess the other thing we talked about was, what about the new episodes coming out? Obviously, 16 years is a long time to be recording a podcast, and Star Trek's still in production. This isn't a show that's stopped.
Yeah.
So, in our timeline, I've included the next season of Lower Decks,
Yep.
And I've included the next season of Strange New Worlds because those are the 2 shows that are coming soon. And we can be pretty certain of where they fit within the timeline. So they are locked into place.
Yeah.
Anything new apart from those 2 shows that comes out. So we've got Section 31 TV movie coming out. There's Starfleet Academy series, which is about to start and take place in that Discovery era. So any new treks, we are going to try, time permitting, we will record an additional podcast that week to review the new show.
Okay.
Each of our episodes is going to be about talking about what we remember of this episode. Then we're going to do a rewatch without the microphones on, and then we're going to come back and talk through the episode and really talk about what the life lesson was from that episode, what's inspiring out of that episode, and how it fits into the bigger franchise. This is about exploring the entire franchise in story order. So we want to highlight some of the good things where that connectivity is good. We also want to, we love it, but we don't mind making fun of it, just like we like to make fun of other things we love.
Absolutely.
So we're going to talk about some of the issues, and some of the concerns we have. There's no franchise in any media that has been going as long as Star Trek has that doesn't have some sort of issues.
Absolutely, and I mean it's an episodic series too. So I mean there's ups and downs with episodic shows. There always has been. So there's good episodes, bad episodes. It's just how it rolls. That's one of the reasons I like it. I think actually. Yeah.
And I really like that they've added so much structure, and as the story has got more solidified, and the universe has been built more. The original series is so disconnected from some of that stuff. The way they talk and some of the things they reference, and they didn't even talk about what century or what year they're in the original series. It wasn't until Wrath of Khan when they were in the 23rd century. I want to talk about that. I want to talk about all that, the good and the bad, and the things we love, the things we loathe.
Absolutely. Denise Crosby
with this, but with this absolute filter of love and respect and gratitude for what Star Trek is and what Star Trek has been able to do for us in our lives.
We wouldn't be here in many ways without it.
I don't exaggerate when I say I probably would not be alive without it. So yes. So thank you, Gene Roddenberry, for creating something that can resonate so well. And I love that it's still on and that it's still a relevant show. And
that there's so many people that have taken it and ran with it and been able to keep it alive with such
respect.
Yeah, that's right. And not altered it to the point where it's unrecognisable, or taken it and gone on. Let's change it to the point where we're going to do our own thing. That have kept it alive in Gene Roddenberry's name and
vision,
loved it and
looked
after it. I think it's amazing. So thanks to everyone that's been part of it, really.
Yeah. So we're calling this episode 0, introductory episode. So our first episode will be back in next week, and we will start our trek through the Star Trek universe. And we're
smooth.
Thank you. Chronologically, the first series is Star Trek Enterprise. This is one that I'm not super in love with.
Neither of us are going to get through this one very easily.
I have grown to appreciate it more in the last 5 or 6 years, but it took me a while to even watch Enterprise. But
yeah, understandable.
But we will talk more about Enterprise as a whole next week, and we will do our first rewatch and review of Broken Bow next week. So hopefully you've enjoyed just meeting us today, and we'll talk to you next week.
Do we have to do like a captain's log out or something? I don't know how they say.
Live long and prosper.
Up.